yeah, don't call it a glyph interface. Infinix has something different going on. Hey there, this episode of Some Gadget Guy is brought to you by viewers like you, all of the incredible people sharing content across social media, and the generosity of my patrons at patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. More info on those awesome nerds later in the video. Hey, I'm spending a little time here with the Note 60 Pro from Infinix. The folks at Infinix sent this my way to test drive, share some thoughts. And I'll caution right at the top of this video that this is going to be a little less of a review proper, a bit more of an overview, as I've been spending some time with this phone, and it's really just encouraging me to ask more questions like, how come we can't get more devices like this in North America? Infinix has a stellar reputation for making really affordable, nice feeling devices. And the Note series is one of those top class entries that doesn't break the bank, but it makes you feel like this phone is a more premium product. Even more so this year, stepping up to some of the nicer lifestyle technologies, a slightly more powerful SoC, the amount of RAM and storage. We still get those fun partnerships like the JBL stickers, and like some of the other international devices that I've been praising, just experimenting, doing something fun. At its core, the Note 60 is super familiar. Again, this is another manufacturer where we're kind of borrowing some design inspiration from a certain manufacturer. We're getting a better than HD resolution AMOLED with a top refresh up to 144 hertz. Generally just keeping it on auto as you're kind of paging through and just navigating the UI. This feels super fluid. It's a cool number to put on a phone. I'm not sure how many people are really going to feel that difference between 120 and 144 hertz, touting the aluminum unibody design, but really I just kind of like the color options. We're getting some really fun choices for colors. This blue is a really mature color. It makes the phone look and feel super fancy. Got an active matrix display. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later. But we also have this programmable action button. Right now I've got mine set to launch the flashlight, and this extra little cutout on the right side. I actually had to look that up. This is a heart rate monitor. So we've got some fitness tracking hardware built into the phone. JBL logo and speakers at the top with a little IR blaster there. A respectable optical fingerprint sensor. Again, more of the mid-ranger devices are moving over to ultrasonic, but this is a phone that's gonna sort of live in that boundary space between an entry-level phone and a more premium mid-ranger experience. And before digging into the phone proper, we should mention that this is a chunky box. This is not a thin box. So when I keep mentioning at this price, please remember that this price also includes a pre-applied screen protector that's on the phone already. We of course get a USB cable, this is a nice hard plastic case with the magnets built in for other accessories because there is wireless charging capability here. All those people are just so upset when a phone doesn't have the magnets built in, and you still need to put the magnets in the case because a lot of the, MagSafe stuff is kind of a scam. And while I was always sad to see some of our less expensive phones lose things like headphone jacks, Infinix still gives us a pair of earbuds in the case, and with a humongous battery in this phone and the capabilities for fast charging, it is nice that we're getting the fast charger in the box with the price of the phone. I'm reviewing a Note 60 Pro with 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gig of storage, an absolutely appropriate amount of space and memory. This did have an update as I was taking the phone out of the box, but I do have to point out that the CPU that's reported in the device is kind of tripped up. There's a big partnership. This is a big deal for Infinix that they're using a Snapdragon 7S Gen 4, and that is properly detailed on the GPU specs, but on the CPU specs, even though all of the CPU cores are properly designated, it does list MediaTek as the vendor, which is a funny little happenstance here. Performance has been phenomenal. Getting a 7S Gen 4 at the lower end of the mid-ranger price tier is a good get. Beyond just the interface being fluid, I've been loading up and playing a bunch of games. I've been really leaning into my Epic Game Store free game of the week, and just very pleased with what this thing has been able to accomplish. Getting Android 16 out of the box, we've got XOS 16 as the skin on top. The Infinix skin has also gotten a lot more mature in how it organizes, in how we can move through the UI. I used to have a lot of annoyances, things like you'd open your app drawer and it would take additional gestures to close it. I think a lot of this has been cleaned up. It's a lot more mature. I think we just expect things now, like having a nice little side dock so that you can get into shortcuts and other applications quickly. I don't love that we're doing the split notification shade. I think this is stupid on a phone where you use lateral swipes to swipe away notifications. It's a little too iPhone-y. And just how every manufacturer is copying this little floating island up by your selfie camera. We get it. It's not a terrible use of space to have something up here that kind of reminds you, especially if you're doing a screen recording. You can make better cards that sort of float through notifications, but just the implementation of it being so inspired by, I would love to see a company play with some of this stuff and then maybe come up with their own visual metaphor for how that goes down. Like if we've got a side dock, wouldn't it be cool to do something maybe kind of BlackBerry? BlackBerry used to love these kinds of gestures and side docks when they were still making phones. And I really don't think that's a huge ask because a lot of work has gone into their custom hardware. We've got a rear-facing active matrix display, which has games, this little matrix studio. So you can do these things like the flip to flash, how you shake the phone can respond to certain gestures. There's a really cool little light up effect if you have two phones and you can send files over NFC. There are two games that use the accelerometer so that you can do some fun things just playing with the back of your phone. As an old who loves to shake his fist and yell at kids to get off of my lawn, I love stuff like this because it reminds me of like playing Snake on my old Nokia candy bar. Where I've maybe been a little critical of having lights on the back of the phone, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Nothing and their implementation of aesthetic, but if we're adding this hardware and we're doing some fun things that can be practical, you flip your phone screen over and you still want you just want to be aware of what's going on your phone, we can use this little active matrix display to give us a heads up, give us notifications, give us alerts. Ditto the side cutout here where you can do a little health scan and heart rate. Let me see if I can do this while I've actually got it on camera. I might need to cut away to a bit of B-roll. All right, let's just measure with the phone. I got to be really careful not to press too hard. Start measuring. I think that's working. I'm just going to take some nice deep breaths. Actually, that's a little high. Recording YouTube videos is kind of a big deal. I'd actually like to throw a question out here. When other phones were playing around, when we would have like heart rate sensors on the backs of phones, or we've been able to use camera hardware to kind of detect pulse and stuff like that, were those features that you were using on your devices, or especially for folks in my audience, have you moved on to some kind of fitness tracker or smartwatch? I kind of don't mind having a little feature like this, considering the price of the phone. It's not taking away from any other part of the experience. It's actually kind of nice to have something that might be sort of built in and dedicated. I don't know. Give me your thoughts, comments down below. I mentioned that the performance was very good, but of course I'm keeping this in comparison to previous generations of Note phones that I've played with that have leaned more on chips like MediaTek Helios. Getting a Snapdragon 7 series chip, even a 7S, I have been very happy. So we pull up something like this and we see this Geekbench score and we see these numbers. Depending on what market you shop this phone, this is a sub $400 phone that is pulling in scores that are besting older premium phones that had chips like the Snapdragon 865. Yes, that was a premium chip 5 years ago, but now this is a phone that might be a third the price of what those phones originally cost, pulling in similar CPU performance. I'll say, I still kind of feel like this is the tier of performance where for a lot of average consumers, we're starting to move beyond daily driver average consumer use, and we are getting into the potential for laptop replacement hardware. This goes well beyond just streaming some multimedia and watching some video, and I love seeing manufacturers like that really take those gaming conversations seriously, where we can enable something like bypass charging. I don't actually have the Infinix charger set up here. I'm just gonna plug this in with my other power delivery charger and flick on bypass charging, and it's gonna give me these options, and I can say all scenarios or just gaming scenarios. But if I want to use the phone more heavily while it's connected to a power source, I can take a little load off of the battery. Totally something we expect on much more expensive devices now arriving. This is actually a useful feature here at a closer to entry-level price point because this phone does deliver enough horsepower to warrant maybe flicking on a mode or a setting like this. And one of the things that I got to go a little light on in this video, I'm not saying it's a weak spot, but I think it's just one of the few areas where I feel we keep our expectations in check is on the camera hardware. Juan from the future, while editing, happily, we've gotten one morning respite from all of the rain that we've been getting over the last couple weeks. So I've rushed out to try and get a couple samples. It's not my normal collection of video and photo samples. I don't even know if this is gonna work because the wind is crazy bad, so you might not even be able to hear me while I shoot this, but I try and get something out there just so you can see what this camera, or I guess one good camera, one okay camera, might be capable of. It's not something that I would put up there as content creator worthy. A lot of those big manufacturing numbers about, oh, well, this is the 50 megapixel ultra HD super night mode, and it's been fine. This isn't a problem, but this is a practical camera that you can get some really good shots out of, but we're not expecting this to punch so far above its price tag, punch so far above its weight class that it's gonna put pressure, flagship killer cameras, oh my gosh, it's gonna take down the Vivos and the Xiaomis. That's not what's happening here. The overall photography experience on a premium priced Galaxy S25, though I have very low estimations of a Galaxy S25, is going to give this a run for its money, is going to outpace what Infinix is packing here. But also, I have to reiterate, a lot of our conversation is built on comparing devices like this against phones that cost twice or 3 times what this phone is going to cost. At this price tier, I think we're in very good territory. I love that they're playing with different little modes and menus. This feels very Xiaomi. This feels very Vivo. You want to do a little quick vlogging. We've got some presets that you can get in really quickly and have like music and editing. The video capabilities are nice. I've got to come over here with support for 4K video or 1080p at 60 frames per second. This is kind of par for the course on a phone in this price range. I don't like that the main auto mode is called AI camera. It's just a sort of auto mode that does things that we've seen cameras do for years. Like it kind of has some basic subject identification. I don't know how precious we're getting with AI. We've got a portrait mode that does respectably well, but I like that we're seeing more companies do this street snap where you've got some distance, you've got some ability to kind of tune in the focus, and then we can craft the field of view. Super night mode being a pretty standard long exposure, you're holding still as it's stacking multiple extra DNGs, and then all of the AI and algorithms kind of squish all those files back together. And then just a bunch of other really fun modes and options. We've got an inexpensive phone pulling off dual video and time lapse, even a pro mode for more manual control over the look of your photos. I'm not gonna put this up at that tier where it's up against much more expensive content creation focused devices, but this doesn't feel like you're being left out just because you bought a less expensive phone. This feels a lot more capable than the price it's coming in at. Plus, I feel this is kind of the perfect device to make one of those claims. You know, we were talking about XOS. This is a skin on top of Android 16. Infinix is saying that they're gonna offer 3 operating system updates, which is a little lean, but they're going to support for 5 years of security patches and bug fixes. At this price, that is a very good commitment to make. See, we're talking about a mid-ranger chip, the Snapdragon 7S Gen 4. I'm not sure I really do want 5 years of operating system updates. I feel a lot of companies get this credit in year 1 that they're gonna give us 5 or 6 or 7 OS updates, but then we never really follow through on how good those updates were. I worry that you get to those last couple updates and they're not nearly as well optimized as the manufacturer could make them. Why would they still be putting that much effort and time and energy into a device that they already have your money? I really feel the last couple years of a phone's life should be those security patches. That's gonna matter a lot more because we have a battery here that might actually hang for that level or that longevity, that length of time. This is a 6,500 milliamp hour battery. And with the Snapdragon 7S, and I'm not putting a lot of high expectations for huge CPU workloads, huge GPU gaming benchmarks, and this is easily able to go a couple days on a single charge. If you hypermile this with this, very power efficient SoC, it is not difficult to get 4 days of use out of a phone like this. Then you plug in with this 90-watt fast charger, and the amount of time that you actually heat up the battery to get it to charge, that's a very short charging window. So you're not putting a lot of thermal wear and tear on this battery. I have high expectations that these battery technologies will last long enough for those support promises to matter, that maybe into year 3 and year 4, you are still looking forward to some kind of semi-regular update schedule for security patches. It is consistently shocking and disappointing to me that we can play with a phone like this. Depending on the region that you might shop this, it could be between $330 and $380, the equivalent in your region of US money. This phone in 2026 is undercutting the price of old school like Pixel 4a phones that we all loved as such a good bargain and such a great bang for buck and performance per price. And I just wish we could get some competition like that here. Imagine you roll into like a Target or a Walmart and you see all of those really like garbage low-end phones, and then as you're kind of creeping up out of just outright burners, you see something like this on the shelf. Buy it. One price, $350. Take it home. There is no additional bill. There is no additional charge on your carrier fees. You just own the phone. You pop in a SIM card. You have a brilliant multimedia device, a pretty solid game playing device, one adequate camera, one mediocre camera, and then just some fun, cute little features that you can show off to your friends. And legit perks like being able to run this experience for multiple days on a single charge and charging faster than a phone that will cost 3 times more. You cannot tell me that Google and Apple and Samsung are really bringing their best to North America. They know they've got this market locked up. They can just copy each other. They know they don't have to compete. And internationally, other folks are getting to play with devices like this, a much better fit for their needs at a much healthier price. If Apple and Samsung and Google had to face more hardware like this, they'd have a much harder time in North America. I keep putting questions out there. I know we talk about the United States like it's a foregone conclusion, but there still has to be something. What might motivate a little more competition, just a little change? Is there anything we can do to start encouraging consumers to look for other alternatives to what's in the front section of their carrier store? I've always been a big fan of what Infinix brings to these kinds of conversations. This like focus on a performance per price. And it's just been a lot of fun to watch the brand grow and mature and move up the food chain. Seeing some experiments, some of these playful little options, it's just really cool to see some brands out there taking some risks, taking some chances. I just gotta leave this off with one last question. I'm really hoping that some people out there, maybe down in my comments, can help fill in the gaps, as I'm an ignorant Western tech reviewer. But if you have Infinix in your region and you can see these phones on your store shelves, what is the reputation of this brand? Are consumers starting to appreciate what this company has to offer? Are they viewed as a competitive alternative? I'd really love to know, because I've been consistently charmed with what Infinix brings to the table, and it kind of helps me just calibrate my opinion on this company. Drop some comments down below, let's have that conversation. I love getting to dig into this stuff, and I will try to spend a little bit more time digging into these cameras, because I know I went a little light on cameras. We just still have miserable weather out here in California. I haven't been able to do my normal testing, but the folks who get to see the results of my testing and photography first are, of course, my incredible patrons. All of the people over on patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. This list of names scrolling by on your screen right now, a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart, as these are the folks that are helping to keep the lights on here in the Gadget Lab. They're basically the coolest tech pals in the universe, so I hope you'll check them out. I hope you'll consider joining the community at patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet, at SomeGadgetGuy, basically everywhere, but these days I'm trying to spend a bit more time on the Mastodons. I'm having some fun playing with Dig. DIGG.com is back, because I'm an old and I love to yell at kids to get off my lawn. We've got a photo community on Dig. We've got some resources to help share content from creators you really care about. So I've been spending a lot more time there, way less so over on the Facebooks and Threads and Instagrams, and almost none at all on that dumpster fire site. And I will catch you all on the next video.